Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I've had a customer come to me to say his son has bikeability in a couple of weeks. That's kind of a cycling proficiency course for primary school children in the UK. You may well have something similar in your own country. Nevertheless, what he wants me to do is to check the bike is nice and safe and give it a service. So what I thought I would do is perform an M check today and show you how to perform an M check on your bike. And pretty much the M check picks up all of the important components of a bike. It will highlight any issues, and more crucially, it will show if there are any safety issues as well. So let's get to work. Why is it called an M check, you may ask? Well, it's because you pretty much follow the shape of the letter M. Obviously for a kid's bike, this side arm is not going to be as obvious as an adult one, but nevertheless, if we imagine this is the bottom left bottom left corner of an M, we're going to go up to the top left and then down, and then from the camera up and down. And at each of those points, we're looking at significant components, not so much with the saddle, but coming down to here, definitely the beginning of the drivetrain system here. Moving up, we can look at the brakes, and then coming down here. And at each of the wheels, the wheel points, we're not just looking at the brakes again, but we're looking at, in this case, the drivetrain, the derailleur, the cassette, the chain, but we're also checking the wheel for quality, for any play and movement, and also for if the tyres are knackered, which actually they are, spoiler alert. Okay, here's what we do. First thing we need to do is at the other end, without moving the camera, just trust me, we're moving the gear shifter for the rear gears. We're just seeing if the gears move, and they do. They're not particularly quick, but that'll be because it's an old cable getting stuck inside the outer cable. So that's no drama. We know the derailleur's moving. If you've got a derailleur guard on the bike, sometimes, particularly if kids like to slam them down, as this one clearly does, sometimes they can be bent in. They're not the strongest of metal. Sometimes they can be bent in. So if your derailleur isn't going to the smallest sprocket, the highest number of gear, it may well be because it's touching on the inside of this guard. Anyway, that's not the case for this bike. We're all good to go. So derailleur's good. Next, we need to look at the cassette or freewheel and the chain. The freewheel or cassette, I won't go into explaining which is which and why they're different. I've got a separate video showing you that. But in both cases, if you look at the end of the sprocket teeth, if they're squared off like this, that's a good sign that there's plenty of life left in them. But another way to check as well is to see how worn or stretched your chain is. It's not technically stretched, but actually because you have loads of wear in each of these pivot points, the rings, whatever you want to call them, if they wear by just 0.5 millimeter or a millimeter, over 114 links or however many you've got, that's a huge amount of difference. And as a result, these individual rollers, will go in between the grooves, the gaps between the sprockets, and slowly wear away all these points, hence making things more pointy and worn. So here we have, this one is 0.75 worn, if you can see that number on the screen. That is borderline needing to be changed, but I think the customer can probably save his money. The kid's not going to do the Tour de France, and the dad's made it perfectly clear, this is September at the moment, that he's going to be getting a new bike at Easter, and he's hardly likely to ride it in the cold months. So I think we'll get away with that, or rather he will get away with not having to buy another one. But if we look at the tyre here, I don't know if you can see it so well on camera. I'm going to try and make it as light as I possibly can for you. No, I can't do too well. I'm just going to come off the stand and just try and show you here. Make it a bit lighter. There we go. Can you see these cracks? Look at that. So that's a flat tyre obviously, but this is a way you can check your tyre's quality by squeezing the tyre if it is flat and just seeing if there's any perishing on the sidewalls. Obviously that is not rideable, that's just terrible. And if I pump up the inner tube inside the tyre, I think it's probably going to it's going to break these splits anyway, but this split is going all the way around. You can see those hopefully just at the top right of the screen. Yeah, throughout the tyre. So currently, I'll put a shopping list on the screen. Currently, we're getting away with everything except for the tyre. If the tyre is this perished, chances are the inner tube's going to be perished as well. For the sake of a few quid, I'm going to suggest to the customer he has that as well. Got a fly pass as well to celebrate the video, how kind. Moving up then, we've got the brake caliper to deal with. So again, off camera, I'm just going to squeeze the rear brake lever and see how things are. Oh, look at that, springing perfectly. It could be that if these are perished as tyres, these might have gone hard as brake pads, as rubber. But we'll see. We'll have a look at the bike first and get it riding after the service and see if there's any squeaking or hard or soft braking. But no, I think it'll be fine. But if it doesn't work well, we'll just chuck some new brake pads on as well. Saddle is absolutely fine. It's not normally this high up. I adjusted it to fit the clamp, which also explains why there's a light there, because I took it off there so I wouldn't lose it. And then moving down to the final part of the drivetrain business, these are the chain rings protected by the guard here to keep oil off your trousers. You've got the front derailleur. Let's just give the gear shifter a twist. Yeah, look at that. Clicky, clicky, but this part is all good. One more thing you can do then is to check the quality of the bottom bracket. And that is the system which joins both crank arms, essentially the pedals, through an axle system through the frame. So if it's worn or perhaps just loose, there's going to be play if you grab the crank arm and brace yourself against the frame, which I'm going to do. So pulling back towards the camera and away, pushing away. Well, there is the very slightest of play. It's not even play. I think it's just, yeah, I think I'm imagining it. There's nothing there. If it was really obvious, then in a very unlikely situation, it's going to be the bottom bracket is loose. Almost certainly it's because the bottom bracket is worn. The bearings have had it and it's time to get a new one. But it's really unlikely for kids' bikes to have worn bottom brackets before they've grown out of them. Now, usually, well, I've done thousands of miles on my road bike and I'm still on the original bracket. So yeah, it's usually for high mileage bikes and enthusiasts. Okay, so we've gone up and down at the end. We're now going to go up to the handlebars. Hopefully you're not feeling seasick by me moving around. Love a single take video. Okay, so we know that the gear shifters are working and the brake levers because I've been testing them. Front, we've still got to check, obviously, but we'll get there in a moment. One thing you can do now is you can put your bike on the ground because it might make it easier to check for play around the headset and the stem. If you apply, when it's on the ground, apply your front brake so your front wheel is locked and essentially just rock the bike backwards and forwards. If there's any play, you will experience it here and here. You might even see things moving slightly. If there's any rocking, any play, it's because you need to adjust almost certainly the top stem cap bolt here. But you also need to remove these ones first before tightening this up. Please don't just go on ahead now by pausing the video and cranking that up as tight as you can because it's loose on your bike, because they're not meant to be cranked up. They're meant to be nipped up just to remove that play that I'm talking about, and then these can be tightened again. I'm not going to show you how to do that right now because for me that's not happening on this bike, but I have a video specifically for that, so have a look in my description and I'll put the link in there. Okay, so that's the top system really. Other than looking at the outer cables, of which we have some wear going on here, so I might replace those. Really, we're just checking visually to make sure there are no obvious defects to the system, any cracks, dents in the frame, rust, things like that. Moving down then to the caliper at the front brake. Hopefully this is in focus for you. We're going to get the brake lever a squeeze off camera. And do you remember how springy the rear brakes were? Well, this one isn't anywhere like that. There will be two likely causes. One is that one of the caliper arms is seized. Almost certainly, though, it's going to be that the cable inside this outer cable, the actual brake cable is getting oxidized. So one way to check is by removing the cable from the system itself like that, and just checking the caliper arms are springy. Well, that one is, and that one is. So we've identified it already. It's definitely the actual brake cable that needs a change, which we're going to do in the service that he has asked for. So that means, yeah, look at that, it's hardly moving at all. That means we've got one more job, which is to come right down here, almost on my hands and knees down here, guys. And we're just going to check the front wheel just the way we checked the back wheel earlier on, which is to look for any damage to the tyre. No damage at all. And get this, this would have been an original tyre. This would have come with the bike from Decathlon. The rear bike, I won't say the brand, you might have seen it on the camera, that would be a newer tyre. I'm guessing because the kid's done loads of skids and worn the original one out. That has perished before this original tyre has perished. There we go. Sometimes buying a name doesn't necessarily mean you're buying quality. But anyway, there were no cracks there at all, and I would say that is absolutely fine for just pumping up and carrying on. But we shall see. And again, finally, we're going to check for play in the wheel, and there's no play at all in this wheel. If I go to the back wheel, because I don't think I did that at the beginning, silly boy. we're going to see if there's any play in this wheel as well. Same as you did with the bottom bracket with the crank arm. You're going to hold the frame here, the rim rather, hold the frame and push the rim away from you and towards you, kind of a rocking motion to see if there's play. There isn't any. If there's any play in this wheel, or indeed the front wheel, then you will need to perform almost certainly a hub service, but you might get away with just tightening up the cone nuts. But it's something to deal with because you really don't want a wheel running loose and potentially causing issue and danger in the future. But as it stands, both wheels are running fine. I'm just looking down the length of the bike and there is the smallest of buckle in this one here, so I'll replace that. The front one is as true as an arrow, so that's fine. So there we have it. As ever, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and to subscribe to the channel, and I will look forward to doing more videos for you in due course. Take it easy, happy riding. I'll see you next time.